Okay, this quick little video announcement is going to be the correct answers for quarter 4 journal number 1. Again, I don't care on the journals if you had the right or wrong answer. So if you haven't answered the journal yet, before you watch this video, go back and take your best crack at it. Answer it as good as you can and kind of explain your logic on it. And then afterwards, after you've done that and entered it on your Google Doc, what your best guesses are, then view this video and I'm going to give you a quick sum up of the answers. Okay. So if you had to pause, go ahead and do that. Here we go. For the first question, what's the difference between a Cold War and a hot war? Actually, it has nothing to do with temperature. One of my favorite guesses ever was like a Cold War would be like fought in Alaska and a hot war would be fought in Mexico. Yeah, no, I get where you'd be coming from for that with the terminology, but that's actually not it. A hot war is like World War II, a war where there is actual fighting and combat. One army over here, an army over here, they're shooting at each other. They're trying to capture territory. That's what a hot war is. A Cold War is like a standoff where it's an icy, frigid relationship. A Cold War could turn into a hot war. Everybody kind of expected after World War II for America and the Soviet Union to have World War III and to lock horns and for it to blow up into a hot war. But the development of nuclear weapons kind of made it so that if a war did break out between the two nuclear powers, everybody's going to lose. So even though it was expected that the Soviet Union and America would get into a hot war, it never actually happened. It didn't come to pass. But for like a 50-year period, they're arch enemies, two global superpowers. And there are a lot of hot wars, isolated hot wars around the world through that era. But no big hot war breaks out between those two global superpowers. So again, Cold War is tensions are very high. There might be a war, but no actual fighting is taking place. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. Then for the political cartoon you saw, well, it's showing the Iron Curtain. And think at the end of World War II, Germany had been the enemy and was in kind of the central part of Europe. The Soviet army, the Red Army or the Communist Army is coming in from the east, from kind of Asia. The army of the democracies, which is America and Great Britain, is coming in from the west. And both armies kind of meet in the center of Europe, right in the middle of Germany, and that's how Germany gets divided. Well, essentially, after the war is done, one would think the armies would go home and that's it. But everybody was worried that, Germany was a big threat in World War I, and then another even bigger war happens in World War II. Nobody wanted to see Germany rise up and become a big threat again. So everybody kind of leaves their armies in place. So the Red Army, the Communist Army, never ends up drawing back and going back into Russia. Stalin leaves troops in East Germany, and all of the places that he had kind of invaded through on his way to get to Germany, he leaves troops there too. And those now become like communist satellite countries. They are technically a name like independent and will have their own separate leaders, but they're not really independent, and they kind of listen to whatever the Soviet Union tells them to do. So like Winston Churchill's metaphor about an iron curtain, and that's what the political cartoon is showing, like a literal iron curtain that goes down through the middle of Europe. But in reality, it's a metaphor. There was no actual iron curtain, like big wall that was made. It's a metaphor between the free part of Europe, the part that is going to be like democracies and vote on their own leaders and have like freedom of speech, essentially, and freedom of thought. And then the eastern side of Europe, which is going to be all controlled by like totalitarian communist regimes that really directly control people's lives. So again, that cartoon is all about the metaphor of the Iron Curtain. It's saying how the people in Eastern Europe or to the east side of Germany over are going to be dominated by the Russians and be forced to be communist. People on the west side of Europe are free, and both sides don't trust each other. And that is Winston Churchill actually peeking under the curtain. He was the guy that came up with the phrase or came up with that metaphor. And it's like he was very anti-communist and did not like Stalin or trust him. And it's like he's trying to peek under there and see what the heck they're up to and is essentially spying on them. But of course, the spying went both ways. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully your answers were creative and fun, and maybe you got kind of close to it, what the actual meaning was. But whether you did or not, I appreciate good guesses. So